invest in 3 different countries. Indonesia is about 30% of our investments. Vietnam, we do about 20%. India is another 30%, and then we do a little bit more that's opportunistic throughout Southeast Asia. But we're operating on something called the Livelihood Impact Fund. And the Livelihood Impact Fund just had a first close at about $15 million. We're looking to raise $50 million overall. And of the 15 that we just closed on, about $7 million of that comes from local Jakarta-based families who, yeah, it's been a very incredible show of support by families in Jakarta who, 4 years ago, we let them invest in one of our companies, and they really liked it. And so they said, you know, these are great ideas, these are good entrepreneurs and good companies, and I don't have time to do this, so can you help us out and continue to work on it? So it's been a lot of fun. And I present it, right? So the Livelihood Impact Fund has investors from Singapore, Indonesia, Europe, the US, Australia, and it's a mix of private individuals and family offices and foundations. So the eBay Foundation is a big investor of ours because we believe in using technology and other tools to help improve the incomes of the working poor. And so we don't look at really trying to do much more than just use businesses to then work with low-income populations and engage them as either primary producers and suppliers of products. So anything you can think of, corn, dairy products, any of the agricultural commodities. I was just down in Bali looking at a cashew company, up in Sumatra looking at an agricultural finance company, or as distributors of products. Because in the developing world, and you probably know as well as anyone, in Indonesia, over 90% of all retail is still flowing through your warung shops. And how do we actually help those warongs make more money for the hard work that they're doing? And so we've made a couple investments on the distribution side. So for a long time, there was a lot of focus on teaching farmers how to farm more efficiently, which is very important. But there wasn't that market linkage, is what we're calling it, between the farmers and the end markets. And so we've been trying to figure out how you shorten those supply chains and get rid of layers upon layers of middlemen that are unnecessary and make it so small producers can't make very much money for their work. So just due to the high rates of spoilage and loss in markets, typically in the fish industry in Indonesia, it's about 3 or 4 times the industry average in North America, that you'll see about 60% degradation in fish quality, which means people start overfishing more, they're not paid very much because the quality of the fish isn't very good, and then there's a whole bunch of other things that keep the poor from making very much for that pound of tuna that they sell. And then, for us, we invest in companies that really have good entrepreneurs behind them, who have a vision to scale their businesses to make them really large. So typically serving, a couple 100,000 farmers or fishermen, or work with hundreds of thousands of shopkeepers, and help their clients actually get access to products and services that they were never able to obtain before. They think they can take to scale. So I'm going to share with you actually my favorite company that I've ever invested into, and is probably the darling of our portfolio right now. It's a company called, I'll say this real quick. We focus on income level increase, so we take a benchmark of how much, let's say, small shopkeepers in Bandung are making, and then after they work with one of our companies, how much more money are they making, and then we focus on the number of livelihoods that we've been able to improve through our portfolio companies. So here's the best company in our portfolio right now. It's based in Jakarta, started by a guy named Aldi Haryopratomo. And Aldi, when he got done with high school, he comes from a middle-income Indonesian family. He went to Purdue University and studied computer science, and then he was one of the first 5 employees of a company called Kiva. And I don't know how many people actually have heard of Kiva before. Kiva is an online lending platform to help microfinance banks throughout the world get access to debt capital and lend out to their clients. So Aldi was one of the first 5 employees there, and he helped build out the IT system for Kiva, which was a pretty complicated transaction system. And so he's got great stories of when Kiva went on Oprah, and then there was so much traffic that it completely melted their servers down. So he's got all these great stories of building IT systems, not knowing how to scale them properly, and then helping them get to the next level. And then he went on and worked at Boston Consulting Group, did a bunch of different projects in the telco space, the banking space, and then the consumer goods space in Southeast Asia and primarily in Jakarta. And then he started this company called Ruma. So I'll tell you really quickly what his idea was. Is when he was over in Pakistan, riding around on the back of motorcycles with an AK-47, trying to figure out how the Pakistanis transferred money all around the country because BCG took on this consulting project from the Pakistani government, he said, wow, why is it so hard to move money around? So he started thinking to himself, well, in Indonesia it's hard to do this as well because no one has bank accounts. So what he ended up coming up with was this idea that he could help small shopkeepers become almost like a branchless banking agent network and open up savings accounts on the behalf of low-income consumers and sell other products and services. And so the first thing that he wanted to do was actually build a network. So he, a couple years ago, had about 2,000 or 3,000 shopkeepers in an agent network. They were selling mobile top-up minutes with all the different number of telcos and all the different denominations of scratch cards. It was very difficult for small shopkeepers a lot of times to afford the inventory and participate in selling mobile top-up minutes. So he came up with a much more efficient SMS and mobile-based platform where every time one of the shopkeepers in his agent network needed to sell, let's say, 10,000 rupiah of telecom cell minutes, the shopkeeper would send a code to the SMS server, then the server would send the code back down to them, and they would sell that code to their client, the client would punch it in their phone, and then they would be topped up. What's that? No scratch card. It's all electronic. So he wanted to get rid of the scratch cards and having to carry the inventory. So every shopkeeper had a balance with Ruma. And we had field officers who would go around and collect money from the shopkeepers and make sure that their balance always had enough in it that they could continue to sell mobile minutes. So that was the end. Really, we look at it at the end of the day and we say this is a great distribution platform that ends up helping out people get access to products and services as low-income folks they were never able to get before. And shopkeepers make a lot of money at the same time. So we just look at it as a scalable platform that we think is going to be a very valuable business at the end of the day. Is every type of company that has a social impact going to be able to do the exact same thing with Ruma? Yeah, probably not, but we think that, over the life of our fund, we'll be able to find 4, 5, or 6 of them in Indonesia that can do it. And luckily, we have such a strong group of investors in Indonesia who believe in it as well. They've allowed us to actually invest some of their money on their behalf. So other ideas of companies, we have a company in China that provides frontline factory workers with employee benefits. We have another company in Vietnam that does a lot of the same things that Ruma does, and then we have a small and medium enterprise lending company in India that does $2,000 to $20,000 loans to small businesses there. But really at the end of the day for Indonesia, we see a tremendous amount of opportunity in agricultural supply chains and in distribution systems. And so we're focusing a lot of our efforts and a lot of the capital out of our fund to do that. We're still raising money for that fund, so if you happen to ever know of anyone who really likes Indonesia and wants to support these types of companies and hopefully make quite a bit of money at the same time while they're doing it, I'm always open to talk with them. And some other ideas, I was looking at a cashew company down in Bali that's doubled in size in the last year. It's helping cashew farmers down there make about two times the amount of money that they were making beforehand. We've looked at some fishing companies, like I mentioned before, an agricultural financing company up in Sumatra that's looking to become a large bank, essentially, for agricultural inputs. I was talking with Sabrina.
Lebih pendek orangnya. Thank you. I'll do campur-campur if it is okay, English and Indonesia. And first, I would like to say thank you for Diaspora for giving me such a precious opportunity to share our work in Kalimantan and such opportunity to gather new friends who believe in making the world better. And also, special thank you to our friends in San Francisco who make my trip possible to come to the US for this diaspora, and also making possible for me to make more trips to visit other organizations, friends that are working. And thank you for Indonesian Community Outreach, Indonesian Community Outreach Committee San Francisco. And I would like to share about a program in Kalimantan, and 7 years, it's not enough to just give it in 10 minutes, but I would like to share it's just an introduction, and we can share more later by sharing ideas. And what we are doing in Kalimantan is not something that we carry on doing. We also open to all ideas, suggestions on how to make our program improve and better.